Hey, I'm Gracie, and I have a crazy story to tell you. But before I do, please like and subscribe to Gracie Stories. What's up, Reddit? I've got a story that's so bizarre you might think it's a rejected movie script. But nope, this is my life. Or at least it was until my twin sister decided to take it for a test drive. Here's the deal. I'm an architect, I've got a cool fiancé, and I was about a month out from what should have been the best day of my life. Enter stage left, my sister, Clara, fresh from her latest life implosion, needing a couch to crash on. Mine, specifically. I had a big project out of town, the kind that could make or break my career. So I left my sister with my apartment keys and my fiancé's contact info, just in case of emergencies. Spoiler alert, the only emergency was the one I walked back into. I returned home early, ready to surprise my fiancé, Alex, and share my success. Instead, I got the surprise of a lifetime. I found Clara, impersonating me, down to the last freckle. She was wearing my clothes, my engagement ring, and the cozy smile that Alex usually reserves for me. The living room was buzzing with our friends and family, all there to celebrate our upcoming wedding. And there I was, the real bride-to-be, standing in the doorway like I was crashing my own life. Before I could even call out the absurdity, Clara pulled me aside with a "we need to talk" grimace. So, here's the hook, folks. My twin sister, the perpetual screw-up, had somehow convinced everyone she was me, and now I had to figure out why, how, and what the hell I was going to do about it. Life before this moment had been pretty straightforward. I had my routines, my favorite mug for morning coffee, and a wedding planner app that was color-coded to an almost obsessive degree. Alex and I were the couple that finished each other's sentences and had the "no, you hang up first" kind of calls. It was disgustingly perfect. Clara, with her whirlwind lifestyle, had always been a contrast to my stability. She was the kind of person who'd book a one-way ticket to Bali on a whim, or take up fire dancing because it spoke to her soul. I loved her for it, even envied her freedom at times. But I never wanted to live it, until, without warning, she decided to live mine. As Clara pulled me into the kitchen, the murmurs of the party became muffled. My heart was pounding, a mix of confusion and a creeping sense of dread. The kitchen, once my sanctuary, felt alien, like a stage set for a play I hadn't rehearsed. "Look, I can explain," Clara started, but her eyes were darting to the door, her posture tense. "Explain?" I echoed, my voice a mix of disbelief and rising anger. "Clara, you're wearing my ring, my dress. You're playing me." She flinched at the accusation, and for a moment, I saw my sister in her, the one who used to share secrets under the covers, not the stranger before me now. "It started as a joke," she said, her voice a whisper. "I missed being you. We used to switch places as kids, remember? It was fun." Fun. The word hung in the air, absurd and chilling. But then, I don't know, it felt natural. And Alex, he's been so sweet, so understanding. He thought I was you and I didn't correct him, and then one thing led to another. I stared at her, my mind racing. How could Alex not know? We had been together for years. Was I so generic, so unremarkable that my own fiancé couldn't tell the difference? I needed to see Alex, to look into his eyes and find the truth. But Clara's hand on my arm stopped me. "Please," she said, and I could hear the edge of desperation. "Just hear me out before you blow this up. It's not just about me. It's about you too." About me? What did that even mean? Clara's eyes were pleading. "There's something you need to know about Alex," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Something that changes everything." My heart skipped a beat. What was she talking about? What did she know about Alex that I didn't? Clara leaned in closer, her breath tickling my ear. "Alex has a secret, one that he's been keeping from you, and I found out by accident." The room seemed to spin. Alex, my Alex, had a secret, and Clara discovered it while masquerading as me. It felt like I was losing my grip on reality. "Clara, what are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice barely above a hiss. She hesitated, then said, "Alex, he's..." The door swung open, and there he was, Alex, looking from Clara to me, his expression a mix of confusion and fear. "Alex," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my head. "We need to talk." The kitchen was silent for a moment, the kind of silence that's heavy, loaded with words that hadn't yet found their way out. Alex's eyes were darting between Clara and me, and I could see the gears turning in his head. He knew something was off, but the question was, how much did he really know? Can someone tell me what's going on? Alex's voice was calm, but there was an undercurrent of something else. Was it guilt? Confusion? I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm of emotions inside me. This was it, the moment of truth. But before I could speak, Clara stepped forward. "She knows, Alex," Clara said, her voice steady. "She knows about the secret." Alex's face paled. It was subtle, but I caught it. The flicker of panic before he composed himself. My heart was pounding now, not just with betrayal, but with fear. What was the secret that had my twin and my fiancé in such a state? "Knows what, exactly?" I asked, my voice firmer than I felt. "That my sister has been impersonating me? Or is there more?" Alex looked at me, and for a second, I saw the man I thought I was going to marry. The man who promised to be honest and true. But that image shattered as he opened his mouth to speak. "It's not what you think," he started, and oh, how I wanted to believe him. "It's just..." "Just what?" I pressed, needing to hear him say it. Clara was watching me now, her expression a mix of guilt and something like pity. It was the pity that did it, that sent a cold shiver down my spine. He's been struggling with something," Clara said, stepping in as Alex struggled to find the words. "Something personal, something he should have told you." I felt like I was in a dream, the kind where you're screaming, but no sound comes out. "Tell me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Alex's eyes met mine, and I saw the truth in them before he even spoke. "I'm already married," he said, the words dropping like stones into the silence of the room. The room spun around me, and I had to lean on the counter for support. Married. The word echoed in my mind, a cruel joke that couldn't possibly be real. "How... when?" I managed to choke out. "It was a long time ago before I met you," Alex said quickly, as if that made any difference. "It was a mistake, and I thought it was in the past. I was going to handle it." Handle it? How does one handle being married when proposing to someone else? "And you," I turned to Clara, my gaze sharp. "You found out and decided to... what? Take my place?" Clara's face was a mask of regret. "I found out by accident. I saw an email on your laptop, an email meant for you, from his wife." The betrayal was a physical ache in my chest, not just from Alex, but from Clara too. She had known and said nothing, played along with this farce. "I wanted to tell you," Clara said, her voice breaking, "but I didn't know how. And then, being you, it felt like I could fix it, make it right before you got hurt." Make it right? By marrying him herself? I was numb, the revelations too much to process all at once. My sister, my fiancé, the life I thought I had, it was all a lie. "Get out," I said, my voice hollow. "Please, let's just talk about this," Alex pleaded. But I was done talking. Done with the lies, the secrets, the betrayal. "Both of you, get out of my house," I repeated, firmer this time. They didn't move at first, still trying to plead their case, but I was resolute. This was my life, and I needed to clear the stage of the actors who had been playing their parts all too well. As they left, the silence settled back in, a stark contrast to the chaos of moments before. I was alone, truly alone, and for the first time in a long time, the quiet didn't feel like peace. It felt like the calm before a storm that had just begun. The door clicked shut behind them, and the silence that followed was deafening. I stood there, in the kitchen that had witnessed countless dinners and laughter, now a silent witness to my life's unraveling. The walls seemed to close in on me, the air thick with the residue of lies and deceit. I slid down to the cold tile floor, my mind a carousel of thoughts spinning too fast to grab hold of any single one. How had I been so blind? How had the signs eluded me? The late nights Alex said were spent at the office, the weekends he was out of town for work, the subtle changes in Clara's behavior. How had I not pieced it all together? The realization that the two people I trusted most had conspired against me, whether intentionally or not, was a jagged pill to swallow. I felt a laugh bubble up, bitter and mocking. It was the kind of laugh that didn't reach your eyes because they were too busy brimming with tears. I must have sat there for hours, the shadows growing long and then fading into the artificial glow of the kitchen lights. My phone buzzed incessantly on the countertop, messages and calls pouring in. Friends, family, the curious and the concerned. But I couldn't face any of them. Not yet. The party had been a farce, but the guests didn't know that. They'd toasted to a future that was never going to happen, to a couple that no longer existed. The thought of explaining it all, of reliving this betrayal with every retelling, was overwhelming. Eventually, the carousel slowed, and a sense of clarity began to cut through the fog of my shock. I had to get out of there. Out of this house that felt like a stage for a play where I no longer knew the lines. I stood up, my legs stiff, and my movements robotic. I packed a bag with the essentials, not caring about the rest. The dress Clara had worn, my dress, lay crumpled on the floor where she'd discarded it. I left it there, a symbol of a life I was walking away from. I didn't know where I was going, but the act of leaving was cathartic. The cool night air was a slap to my senses as I stepped outside, the first step toward something new, something mine. I drove without direction, the city lights blurring past. I wasn't running away, I was moving forward, away from the lies, the betrayal, and the pain. I needed space to think, to breathe, to figure out who I was when I wasn't the other half of a couple, or the mirror image of my twin. I found myself at a 24-hour diner, the kind of place where lost souls congregate in the wee hours of the morning. The waitress, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, didn't ask questions. She just poured me a cup of coffee that was too strong and left me to my solitude. As I sipped the bitter brew, I thought about what I would do next. The wedding was off, that was certain. But what about my job, my friends, my life? Could I pick up the pieces and rebuild, or was it time for a fresh start somewhere new? By the time the sun began to paint the sky with the first light of dawn, I had made a decision. I would go back, not to the life I had, but to confront it, to end it on my terms. I would sell the house, quit my job, and start anew. But first, I would face Alex and his wife, and Clara too. They owed me that much. I left the diner with a plan forming, the first step in taking back control. I was no longer the victim in this twisted play. I was the author, and it was time to write a new script. The morning light was a stark contrast to the darkness of the night before, both literally and metaphorically. As I drove back to the house that no longer felt like home, the weight of my decision anchored me. It was time to face the tangled web of my old life and clear the path for my new beginning. I arrived to find Alex's car parked outside. The sight of it sparked a flare of anger, but beneath that, a steely resolve. I was ready to face him, to demand the closure I needed to move on. I found him sitting on the front steps, his face haggard, as if he hadn't slept. Clara was there too, hovering in the background, her usual vibrancy dimmed by guilt. "Before you say anything," Alex began, standing up, "I want to apologize. I was a coward, and I should have been honest with you from the start." His words were expected. The apology I knew I'd get, but they did nothing to quell the turmoil inside me. "Save it," I said, cutting him off. "I'm not here for apologies, I'm here for the truth." And so, the truth came out. Alex's marriage had been a youthful mistake, one he thought he'd left behind until his so-called wife resurfaced, threatening to expose him unless he paid her off. He'd been trying to deal with it quietly, to protect me from the scandal. I listened, not with the heart of a jilted lover, but with the detachment of someone who had already moved past the pain. When he finished, I simply nodded. "I'm not here to fix this for you, Alex. That's your journey," I said. "Mine is taking a different path." I turned to Clara, who flinched under my gaze. "And you," I continued, "you need to find your own life, not steal someone else's, even if it's just for a moment." Clara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she managed to say, her voice choked with emotion. I believed her, and part of me ached for the bond we once shared, but I knew it would never be the same again. With the truth laid bare and the apologies made, I felt a sense of closure. I didn't need to stay and sift through the wreckage. It was time to rebuild elsewhere. I left them there, at the house, and went to a lawyer to start the proceedings for selling the property. I contacted my boss and explained that I would be leaving, giving enough notice to not burn bridges, but not enough to let myself be pulled back into the old rhythm of my life. Months later, I found myself in a new city, with a new job and a new apartment, with no memories attached. It was a fresh canvas, and I was the artist, free to create the life I wanted. I kept in touch with Clara, but from a distance. We were both healing, both growing, and maybe, in time, we could find a new way to be sisters. As for Alex, he became a chapter in my story that was over. I heard he managed to settle things with his past, and I genuinely wished him well. But he was just that, a part of my past. I had found a new community, new friends, and a new love for solitude that I never knew I had. The betrayal had taught me the value of self-reliance and the strength that comes from facing your darkest moments head-on. And so, my Reddit friends, that's where I leave you. With a story that started with betrayal but ended with the most important love affair of all, the one with myself.